Hello, Matthews Gatos here. Welcome to Chapter 7, Lesson 10, the practice test. In this video, I'm just going to go through all the questions in your practice test so you can see how to come up with the answers. Okay, so question number 1. A student makes 4 statements about rational expressions. Which one is the false one? So let's go through these one at a time. Values of the variable which result in rational expression not being defined, so not being defined, are called non-permissible values. That is true. Values of the variable which make the numerator equal to 0 are restrictions. Well, remember I said to you it's okay for 0 to be in the numerator, but it's a big no to be in the denominator. This is false. So I found my false statement. It is statement number 2. Let's just look at the remaining ones to see why they are true. Non-permissible values are known as restrictions. Yes, NPV values are the restrictions. This is true. And non-permissible values are the value of the variable which make the denominator equal to 0. That's also true, which is why they're a restriction, because I can't divide by 0. Okay, question number 2. When simplified, this rational expression can be reduced to which of the following? Okay, so looking at a squared minus a, remember there's 2 ways I can factor, GCF and difference of squares. So in the numerator, this is a GCF because they're both a squareds. So let's divide each by a. A squared divided by a is a. Take away a divided by a is 1 over. In the denominator, there's no GCF because I said if one of the terms is a 1, then there is no GCF. So this is a difference of squares. So I'm going to factor that by taking square root of the first term. So square root of a squared is a. Square root of 1 is 1. And I add one set and subtract the other. Once I've done that, I can see I have a common factor of a minus 1 and a minus 1. So my final answer is a over a plus 1, which would be D. Now, if this was a question on your test and a multiple choice question, you could easily just put this in the calculator. So I just want to show you that. So you can see in Y1, I put the question, and in Y2, I put the option for A, and then the option for B, the option for C, and the option for D. You would just have to do them one at a time. You don't have to do all of them because you might luck out and it might be the first one. So I can see that Y1, 2/3, 3/4, 4/5 is the same as Y. Is it Y4? No, I did not line that up correctly. Let's try that again. It's the same as this one here. So 4/5, 4/5, 3/2, or 3/4, 3/4, 2/3, 2/3, 0, 0. This one has a non-permissible value because it was before it was simplified. So it looks like Y1 equals Y5, and Y5 is D. So that's why D was the option. Okay, in this one here, we want to reduce it. So in other words, simplify it. In the numerator, x squared minus 25, I have a difference of squares. So square root of x squared is x. Square root of 25 is 5. Add 1 and subtract the other in any order. Now in the denominator, I notice these both have x in each of the terms. So this is factoring by greatest common factor. So since they both have an x, I'll take that out. X squared divided by x is x, plus 5x divided by x is 5. So I see they have a common factor of x plus 5. So I'm left with x minus 5 over x, so C would be the option. Again, because this is a multiple choice question, I could have done it on the calculator, so it's a nice check nonetheless. So you can see here I put in the options for A, for B, and for C. And so Y1 is the original question, and I can see looking at my table of values that Y1 is the same as Y4. So that's Y4 is C, so I know that C is the option. Okay, number 3, if the difference of these can be written as K over 3A, what's the value of K? So we're subtracting these, so I need a common denominator. So I see I'm going to need a factor of 3, and I'm going to need a factor of A. In the second one, I need a factor of A, which I already have. Okay. So 8 out of 3a, well, the denominator is already there, so I keep my numerator. To go from this denominator to this one, I'm multiplying it by 3. So to be fair, I multiply the top by 3 as well, which is 6. So now that the denominators are the same, I can just go 8 take away 6 is 2. So this is really 2 over 3a. So I see that A is my option. Now again, if this was a multiple choice question, I could just put it into my calculator. And here's what I did. I put the original question into Y1, and then I took each of these answers, 2 over 3A, 3 over 3A, 6 over 3A, 22 over 3A, and put them in as my options for A, B, C, and D. So looking at Y1, I can see that Y1 and Y2 are the same, so that's why A is the option. Okay, and this one here, the restrictions on the variable in the division question. So everything is factored, or there's nothing to factor. Now remember, for division, well, let's start off. We're going to have restrictions in the denominator. So for sure, x can't equal 2 and 1. Okay, so I have those restrictions for sure. But when I do division questions, remember, keep Chewbacca fly. I keep the first one the same. I change it to multiplication, and then I flip the second one. When I flip the second one, x minus 3 is going to become on the bottom. So I have an additional restriction of 3. So the restrictions are 2, 1, and 3, making C the answer. Okay, numeric response 1. The rational expression ax minus b over cx squared minus 2 is equivalent to, it's equal to, x minus 3 over 4x squared minus 1. So I want to find the values of a, b, and c. So what I'm going to look for, really the only thing I can look for is my numbers, because that's the only thing that has not changed. It's still just a number. So to go from 1 to 2, I would multiply by 2. Since they are equivalent, I would multiply everything by 2. So I would multiply this guy by 2 and this one by 2 as well. So if I look at A is going to be the number in front, which is 1, 1 times 2. So A is 1 times 2, or just 2. My B value is going to be negative 3 times 2. So negative 3 times 2 is minus 6. So since they already have it in the form minus b, I'm just going to write a 6. And then c is going to be the number 4 in front, 4 times 2, and that works out to be 8. So the answer would be 268, and that would be equivalent. Okay, number 6, we are going to do division. So remember, when I have fraction over a fraction, I can quickly change this into a simpler looking question by just doing this. So now I'm just going to factor. So a squared minus 36, that's a difference of squares. So square root of a squared is a. Square root of 36 is 36. I add one factor and subtract the other. Now for division, I keep my first fraction the same. I change this to multiplication, keep Chewbacca the fly, F. I flip the second fraction. Okay, so in doing that, now that I'm multiplying, I can make it one big fraction because I'm multiplying, and then look for common factors like a minus 6, and then I'm left with 1 in the numerator and a plus 6 in the denominator. So the answer would be D. Now, this question could also be done on the calculator. So let's look at that. So on the calculator, what you can see that I've done, let's go down here, is that I put the question into Y1 and I put my options for A, B, C, and D in each of the others. So looking at Y1, the one that matches is Y5, and that's why D is the answer. Okay, for this one here, simplified form. Okay, so we're going to add these together. So I need a common denominator. Now when I'm looking at this, I notice x minus 3 and 3 minus x, those are same but opposite. So what I'm going to actually do is factor out a negative 1. So 3 divided by negative 1 is negative 3. Negative divided by negative 1 is positive x. So I can actually just write it like this, plus 2 over negative 1 times negative 3 plus x is the same as x minus 3. Okay, so now the denominators are the same. And what I'm going to do is a little trick. If I add a negative, that's the same as subtracting. So a negative and a positive is a negative. So I'm just going to change the question like this. So I just combined these guys here to be just subtract. So now that the denominators are the same, I can keep the denominator, and then just in the numerator, 4 take away 2 is 2. So it looks like A is the correct option. So again, since this is a multiple choice question, we can do this on our calculator. So I just want to look at that. So I put my original question into y1. I put each of the options into the remaining y equals. And I can see that y1 is the same as y2. So that tells me I know A is the option for sure. So that's why it's A. Number 8. Okay, to simplify this one here. So I have 6x over, whenever I have a binomial squared, I always want to write it out twice. And now I can come up with the common denominator. So I'm going to need a factor of x minus 4 in each. Okay, I've got it and got it, but I need another factor of x minus 4. So I need 2 factors of x minus 4. Okay, so now the denominator is the same for the first one, so it stays as 6x. To make these the same, I multiply top and bottom by x minus 4. So 2 times x and 2 times negative 4. Okay, so now that the denominator is the same, I can combine them as one fraction. And I do 6x take away 2x is 4x. And take away negative 8 is a positive 8. Okay, now I notice that I have a GCF of 4. So I'm going to take out a GCF of 4. And then I'll combine this as x minus 4 squared. Now that's the way I like the answers, but you'll notice that the options have it factored in. Okay, so I like it like this. This makes mosquitoes happy. But to match the ones that they have, I'll leave it as 4x plus 8 over x minus 4 squared, just so we can see the correct option, which is option D. Okay, so again, because this is a multiple choice question, it could have been just done on your calculator, so I just want to show you that. Original question in y1, options for A, B, C, and D. And you can see, looking at these, that y1 matches y5. They're the same for all the permissible values, so that's why D is the option. Okay, for this one here, we're going to spot an error. So they're going through and subtracting. So I need a common denominator. I need an a plus 2 and an a plus 3 for each. So this one's missing an a plus 3, times it by top and bottom. That looks good. This one's missing an a plus 2, times them by top and bottom. That's good. Okay, so I'm already going to make a prediction. Because it's a subtraction, remember I said you always have to be on high alert. Be super careful with subtraction. I'm going to make a prediction that that's where the mistake is going to be. But let's see. So a plus 3 times a plus 3 minus a plus 4 times a plus 4 all over the common denominator. That's good. Okay, so distributive property. A squared, 3a and 3a is 6a, 3 and 3 is 9. So this part looks good. A times a is a squared, 2a and 4a is 6a plus 8. That's good. But look, they did not follow my tip of putting this in brackets. And I think that's exactly where the mistake is. Okay, so they only subtracted the first term, not the entire term. So my mistake is in line number 3. So the mistake is in line number 3. Let's just correct their mistake here. Okay, so I'm going to have a squared plus 6a plus 9, and then subtract everything inside the bracket. Subtract the a squared, subtract the 6a, and subtract the 8, all over a plus 2, a plus 3. So remember, you just have to subtract everything. So a squared minus a squared is 0. 6a minus 6a, 0. 9 minus 8, just 1, over a plus 2 times a plus 3. That would be the correct answer. Okay. Oh, look at that. We actually corrected it already. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here because we've already corrected it, and I'm going to copy my answer over, and we'll see which one it matches. Okay, so we've written it in this form, and it looks like 1 is the option that I got, so C is the correct answer. Okay, so what I can do actually in my calculator, since it's a multiple choice question, I can put the original question into y1, and then notice what I'm doing. Negative 17 as C, and then negative 1 is C, 1 is C, and 17 is C. Just replacing each of those numbers in there. And you can see that y1, the question, matches with this one right here. So I know Y4 is the match, and Y4 was A, B, C. So that's why C is the correct option. Okay, this one here. So when simplified, this difference can be written in this form, where A and B are integers. What are the values of A and B? Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. When I'm subtracting, I have to have the same denominator, and when possible, I want to factor. So x squared minus 49 can be factored. It's a difference of squares. So the square root of x squared is x. The square root of 49 is 7. I add one set and subtract the other. And now my denominators are the same. So I need a factor of x minus 7 in each. And that covers this one too. I also need a factor of x plus 7. Good. So comparing the first fraction, I'm missing a factor of x plus 7. So I will multiply the numerator and denominator by x plus 7 to get 3x plus 21. The second fraction has the same denominator, so I'm going to keep my numerator the same as 4. So now I can just keep my denominator the same and add my numerators, or sorry, subtract. So I have 3x, and then 21 take away 4 is 17. So looking at this, it's written as ax plus b. So the value of a is 3, and the value of b is 17. So 3 and 17 makes D my option. Okay, let's look at number 12. We have a rectangle. I always like to draw a little picture to visualize this. So it has a length of 1 over x and a width of 1 over x plus 1. Okay, so since this is the width here, it's also going to be the width over here. If this is the length, this is also the length over here. So we want to come up with an expression for the perimeter. So perimeter is all the way around. So since I have two that are the same, I can say that my perimeter is equal to 2 of my widths plus 2 of my lengths. So that is 2 over x plus 1 plus 2 over x. So all I have to do now is just combine these with a common denominator, because the only way I can add is with a common denominator. Okay, let's try this. Okay, so my common denominator, I'm going to need a factor of x plus 1. And I'm also going to need a factor of x, so I need one of each factor. So looking at this denominator here, it's missing a factor of x, so I multiply top and bottom by x. Comparing here, it's missing a factor of x plus 1, so I multiply x plus 1 by the top and the bottom to get 2x plus 2. Okay, adding these together, I get 4x plus 2 over x plus 1 times x. And I see that's how the answer is in the options. So I can see that this would be my option. But if I was doing this question, what I want to see you guys do is factor out the GCF. So 4x divided by 2 is 2x, and plus 2 divided by 2 is 1. This is a better answer to me. And the reason I want you to do that is because if you factor every single time, you're never going to forget. And then you always look for common factors. But you can see the option that they have is the unfactored version. So B would be your answer. Okay, question number 13. The root of the equation. So root means solution. So since I have 3 terms, I'm going to solve this by balance. Going to write it out. So by balance, what I mean is I want to multiply everything by the lowest common denominator to get rid of all my fractions. So I'm just going to do this a piece at a time. So to get rid of my x plus 3, I would multiply everything by x plus 3 to be fair and balanced. To get rid of my x plus 7, I would multiply everything by x plus 7 to get rid of that denominator as well. So now I'm ready to go. So x plus 3 and x plus 3 cancel. You're left with 1 times x plus 7. Minus x plus 7 and x plus 7 cancels. You're left with 2 times x plus 3 equals x plus 3 and x plus 3, x plus 7 and x plus 7 cancel. You're only left with x. Okay, now before I get too far, I'm going to state my non-permissible values, which I almost forgot. So the opposite of a +3 is a -3, and the opposite of a +7 is a -7. Okay, so let's apply the distributive property here. So -2 times x, -2 times 3. And tidy it up. So x take away 2x is -x. 7 take away 6 is 1. So I have a linear equation. I want x on one side and number on the other. So adding x to both sides and dividing both sides by 2. So I get x is equal to 1/2. So 0.5. And I check it against my non-permissible values. It's not one of those. Now, because this was a multiple choice question, you could have also done this question on the calculator. Let's look at that. So the root of the equation, I'm going to put my left side in y1, my right side in y2, and I'm going to look in the table for these values to see which one is the solution. So you can see I do the left side in y1, right side in y2, and I'm looking to see which one is equal. So at 0.5, they're equal. They're not equal here, not equal here, and not equal here. So 0.5 or 1/2 is the correct solution. Okay, number 14. Student determines the dimensions of the door of a conference hall can be written as rational expressions. Expressions for length and width of the door are shown. And we want to write the area of a door as a quadratic. Okay, well, area is equal to length times width. So since area is equal to length times width, I'll call this my length and this my width, although it doesn't really matter because we're just multiplying. So I'm multiplying x squared minus 25 over 2x plus 1 multiplied by 4x squared minus 1 over x minus 5. So I want to simplify this, and I always simplify by factoring. So in my numerator, I have a difference of squares, x minus 5, x plus 5. In my denominator, if one of my terms is a 1, I know there's no GCF, and there's nothing squared, so it's not a difference of squares. In the numerator here, with the 1, there is no GCF, but these are both perfect squares, so I can actually factor that. The square root of 4x squared is 2x, and the square root of 1 is 1. Add one set and subtract the other, all over x minus 5. Okay. So looking at this question here, since it's a multiplication question, I can combine it as one big fraction and look for things to cancel. So 2x plus 1 cancels, x minus 5 cancels, and I'm just left with my area equals x plus 5 multiplied by 2x minus 1. Now, I would be okay with you leaving it like that, but they want us to write it as a quadratic, which means I need to apply the distributive property. So x times x, 2x squared, x times -1, 5 times 2x, and 5 times -1. So grouping my like terms, I have 2x squared plus 9x, 10 take away 1, minus 5. And what did they want? They want the value of a plus b plus c. So a is 2, b is 9, c is -5. So 2 plus 9 take away 5. 2 plus 9 is 11. 11 take away 5 is 6. So B would be the correct option.